if this is not your first workshop, which I know Katrina it is not, so you already know what I'm about to say, and that's okay. But what I like to do for these workshops, you guys, is actually give you guys tangible things. Really, the workshop is truly for you guys to go take what you learn and go do and really like bring things to your practice and to your business. And so, the ways that we like to roll into the workshop is keep it really interactive, get to know what you guys really want and need. And, at the end, we'll talk about a couple different options of how you can use this information and a couple different ways to really give you guys some next action steps. So, this really comes down to, in a lot of ways, what I'm seeing in this space is there's a lot of education out there, and people can get kind of education overwhelm. I'm trying to think of the right words. Education overwhelm, education burnout. This idea that like everybody knows a secret, but like you don't know what it is, right? This idea of like, how could you possibly be making this much money? And then nobody actually tells you how they do it, right? So this is kind of my like, this is my way. This is my way that I like to do it. If you've been in my circle, if you've been in my workshops, if you've been with me at all, if you've watched any of my trainings, like I don't like to hold back. I don't like to keep secrets. I don't like to not be clear. So that's what we want to do. So I even want to know from you guys in the chat, right? Like this is kind of the how to go from 5 to 15K, and we can talk beyond that too. We could talk before that too if you guys want to. But I actually want to know from you guys, what do you feel are like your 3 biggest frustrations? You can put them in the chat. You can shout them out. It's a small group. So like, I just want to know from you guys, what do you really feel is frustrating for you in your businesses, is frustrating for you and where you're at, like as far as all this stuff goes. So does anybody want to throw a frustration out there? Anybody want to start the ball rolling?
I have a major frustration with just not having providers around me that are educated and knowledgeable of the airway space.
Feel like you don't have enough people to connect with?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I feel like I'm the only educator around, and I feel like I'm overwhelmed trying to educate people.
So you're spending too much time educating.
Yes.
And that doesn't give you a chance to spend time selling. Okay. Yep. Too much time educating, not enough selling. Okay. All right. That's good.
I think, I don't know. Am I on? Okay.
You're up. You do it.
I'm on a extended maternity leave, but I'm trying to think of my future and like where I want to go when I go back to work. And, I can go back to dental hygiene, and I'm a pediatric dental hygienist, and I love the office, but I also want to be able to make income that can support my family. If anything, if for any reason my husband couldn't work, and so I wanted to be able to provide for us as well. But I think what hinders me is I always feel like I don't have enough education. I don't have that next level to really be the person that the patients need. And so I'm always like, no, all I've done so far is MyoMentor. So no, I need to take AMOT, I need more education before I can, do myofunctional therapy. I need more education before I can add a lot of patients. And I'm always thinking like I'm not good enough because I don't have as much education as other people do.
They will tell you for 6 years, MyoMentor was the only course I ever took.
And I love that. And I love hearing that. And I just, I have a couple of friends that, I started off with that I, met through Myo for Ohio, that little Myo for Ohio thing for a second before she became the airway Ohio person, but they all went off, and one started massage school and one started AMOT. Is that how you say it? Whatever.
AOMT. Yeah.
AOMT, thank you. See, I've been out of this for like a year now, so I'm like,
Okay.
I don't feel the confidence to just keep, go ahead and add a bunch of patients all of a sudden. And so I need that push.
Lack of confidence. Okay. Stacy, what are you, if you can hear me, I know you're doing everything right now. You're back in school. What do you feel like is missing for you? What drove you to go back to school? Maybe like, if you don't mind sharing with us, what did that look like for you? If you either want to pop on and say it, or if you're, well, I guess if you're driving, pop
I'm
on.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am driving, but I'm
I was like, don't type it if you're driving. Don't.
yeah, I'll talk. Thank you. Okay, and then so yes, so I'm wanting to go back to school. Like my biggest frustration, I've been doing myo for a little bit. I started, when did I start doing this? I took my first class back in 2015.
Okay.
So I just dabbled in it after that. I really jumped in an office, so employed in 2017. And then I jumped out on my own, and I was still doing a little bit on my own, but it was very like hobby-esque in that time frame. And so like literally since then, so we're talking like 2018 to current, obviously COVID was in the middle and that craziness, but I feel like it's just been very inconsistent. And that's where I have struggled so much is, I mean, I do lactation too, and I have the same problem is because I have such a niche specialty, even in lactation, I see very specific cases. It's like I have a hard time conveying what it is exactly that I do. Like I know what I do, obviously, I can talk about it all day long, but I feel like conveying that in a way that actually makes sense to other practitioners, that actually resonates with families, and they truly understand what I'm doing is my biggest struggle. And then obviously that affects, conversion. Sometimes it affects even getting them in the door for an exam. And then the conversion to actual therapy, I feel like it is very inconsistent. Like I work with an airway ortho practice, and even then, like that's part of my job. And I feel like that's becoming more consistent because I've laid out some very simple steps, I guess. And so that's becoming more consistent, but it's still not where I'd like it to be, to just feel comfortable, like financially. Like I'm a single mom too, and it's like I don't have a lot to fall back on. And so I've always kept my leg in the door with something else, right? Yep. And I just jumped out and really tried to jump in this last year. And that's been really scary. And I'm okay, but it's not like I can just breathe, and like know that I have this disposable, consistent income that is paying my bills, and I don't have to just be like hustling constantly.
Yeah. Yep. Feeling like you have to hustle constantly.
Yep. Yeah. All the time.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, I think at this point everybody knows, but I'm also a single mom, 2.5-year-old. So, and I'm all she got. So period. We don't get anything from anywhere else. And there can feel a lot of pressure at that. Like also you have to be like the perfect parent. And then also you have to, make sure you bring in all the money, and then you have to, and I've got a great support system, and I'm very like happy to have that from my mom and my friends and my sisters, and, create that space. But at the end of the day, it all comes back on me. Right. So, and this idea of being an entrepreneur, and this idea of like having to hustle 24/7 and not always feeling comfortable knowing where your next dollar is can be really hard to get out there and to make risks and to kind of put things forward. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for sharing those things. I think those are all really great things for us to work through today as we're working through these other things, right? So here's the thing, right? Like a lot of times, so we have these frustrations, right? And then we have to figure out too, what are the obstacles? What are the big fears? Right? What is the big fear 6 months from now? Right? If everything stays the same and we don't take any steps moving forward today, if we don't, get to that next income level, whatever it is, right? What's the fear 6 months from now, right? What's the fear 1 year from now? What's the fear 3 years from now? Like, what is the absolute worst thing that can possibly happen, right? And I think in a lot of cases is that it gets stuck or we never actually move forward on things, right? We get stuck in this perpetual education loop because we always feel like we need to be smarter, we need to be more educated, we need to do all these things, we need to, right? We need to get people to understand us more. And so then we feel like if we get more education, then they will understand us better. But a lot of times when we get more education, we get more confusing. A little bit of the opposite effect, right? When really, truly, and we're going to talk about this today because I think this is a big thing that keeps coming up in my brain is like clarity and being really clear. I think being really clear and figuring out a way to not be so confusing is the number one thing I've been seeing in everybody lately. And even in myself a little bit, to be honest with you, as I'm growing, as I'm changing, as I'm doing things, like my myo offer in my sleep, I'm so clear, right? But in some of these other things, I'm like, okay, I actually think I need to get a little more clear on what it is I do, what it is I'm bringing, because when people get it, they're going crazy. They're having amazing, right? They're having amazing careers. They're having amazing numbers. They're really like, it makes sense. And so how can I make sure it makes sense to people who are like, wait a second, how do I do this? Right? So, one of the big things I always like to start out with, right? There's Jocelyn. There she is. Hi, Jocelyn. One of the big things I like to start off with, and honestly, I probably should have put that in here. So sorry, but write it on the front page. A little space on the front page here. Like, what is it, like, as clear as absolutely possible? What are 3 things that you ultimately truly want? Like, as clear as you could possibly get. I want this amount of money. I want this many patients in a month. I want to work this many hours a week, right? What are the 3 biggest, deepest things that you truly want, right? And then the thing about making money, the thing about running a business, the thing about all of this stuff that like everybody's kind of like woo-woo talking about, like manifestation and like you just believe and it happens, like that's a little, you have to actually do stuff, by the way. Like, yes, you have to believe in yourself, you have to have that confidence, but like you also have to take inspired action, right? But it's hard to take inspired action on something when you don't know what you want, when you're not clear on what it is you truly want. Like if money didn't matter, if time didn't matter, if making sure, everything that's in the back of our heads as moms, or everything's in the back of our head as partners and paying bills or single moms, like, right? Everything that's in responsibility back here, right? Like if money didn't matter, what ultimately would your life look like? Right? What is that true dream, right? Because if we're chasing things, if we're working towards things and there's no purpose behind it, then we're never going to be clear. And so getting really clear is going to truly and ultimately help you get exactly what you want. That's how we get out of this, this cycle, the loop, right? Not feeling educated enough, not feeling like you can succinctly talk to your patients, right? Having to hustle 24/7, kind of chasing this invisible thing that you feel like everybody else has and that everybody else just knows. It's not true. Like that's not true at all. Like hands down tell you, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, right? I've got like 30 people in boot camp and they're all in the same boat talking about the same things. All right. Like we've got We've got all these girls who are feeling the exact, there's you guys. You got, right? Who are feeling the exact same way, right? But what is the difference is this idea of going from, let me think about what I want to do versus let me get really clear and take action on what I want to do, right? Like great things are not built on let me think about it, right? And sometimes there's risk, right? So true inspired action, right? There's risk, right? Taking a little bit of risk, and making sure, you know, maybe it's a financial risk, maybe it's an emotional risk, maybe it's, you know, spiritual, whatever type of risk. It could involve some sort of risk, right? And that's part of it, right? That's step one, right? It's not just about risk, right? Then you also have to have trust in yourself, right? We can all call it confidence too, but trust in yourself. Like you make good decisions. You are more than capable all the time, and you always make good decisions, right? Like whatever that inner voice is, like you are more than capable of making really good decisions for yourself, right? You know what you want, you know how to make a decision. And so trust in yourself and also trust in whoever it is that you want to work with, right? You trust that your patients are always going to show up. You trust that people are always going to pay you, right? Like you trust that everything you do is a step in the right direction for you, right? That trust in yourself, trust that people are going to show up, trust in whoever it is that you want to guide you. Like, you know, you can make sure that you are truly and ultimately trusting yourself, and then also like trustworthy that you're capable, right? Um, and then the next step is the inspired action, right? The actual doing. And that's where so many people get stuck, right? You're like, no, I need one more course. No, I need one more thing. No, I need one more. There's no such thing as a magic bullet, right? There's no such thing as like the perfect secret. Like we talk a lot about everything's a test, right? Everything's a test. You try it, you evolve, you move it. You know, I'm on my, you know, whatever, like, I don't know, 1500th patient, whatever. I don't even know the number at this point, you guys, to be honest. Do I see them the same way that I saw my first patients? No. Did I help my first patients? Absolutely. Right? Like, and you grow and you evolve and you change, and like, you're still always going to know more than the people next to you, right? Than the people that you're training, the people that you're working with. So it's not about, you know, and if you don't know, you say, hey, this is really interesting. I'm going to learn more. Like you threw me a curveball. I'm going to go find out for you, right? And people rather connect with a human than with a know-it-all. Wouldn't you rather connect with a human than a know-it-all? Nothing is worse than a know-it-all, right? It's not human. You can't connect with them. You feel dumb asking questions. You feel like you can't actually talk about your emotions or what you don't know. You feel, I mean, there's definitely some study groups out there where you can't post a single thing, right? Without a know-it-all coming at you, right? And is that helpful? No. Right? So you're not you don't want to be a know-it-all to your patients either, because they're going to feel dumb. They're not going to feel like they're connecting. They're not going to feel right. You know, so that is a rant that I was not planning on going on. So this happens sometimes. Maybe we call it a riff, right? So, but it's idea, right? This figuring out what you want and getting really clear. And why do you want this? Because when you have a purpose behind your whys, it's so much easier and you run into so much less resistance, right? So if you sit back and you say, I want to be able to do this because I know every month that my kids are going to be taken care of. I want to do this because I know that I am going to balance the financial load between me and my partner. I want to do this because I want to be able to take my kids on a surprise trip to Disneyland on Christmas, right? I want to be able to say yes to everything that they want to do, and I don't care if I spoil the crap out of them, right? I want the option to say yes to anything I possibly want to do, right? So if we come from it from that lens, right? If we align those things up, then we start talking about what does life look like 6 months from now, right? What does life look like a year from now? What does life look like 3 years from now? How is it going to be different than where we've been feeling stuck now, right? Like this fear of not being enough, this fear of not knowing enough, this fear of not delivering, not deserving, right? This kind of, can't tell you how many people I think underprice their therapy, and I will stand beside that. I will die on that hill to the day I die. Like I will extra die on that hill. Because I think it's doing the whole field a disservice when we offer discount services. So I will go toe to toe on anybody that wants to go toe to toe with me on that one. Because I think all of our time is valuable, and I think the education that we do have, and I think what we bring to the table. So what, you took you took a residency after your decades of dental hygiene. That means you have decades of experience. Just because your residency is new, your specialty is new, you have decades, right? You have decades, right? So Katrina, I say the minimum that you should be charging, like the bare minimum, I don't even think this is like that I can like not cringe at, is at least 150 a session. So, you know, I run a comprehensive therapy program. In my world, our patients stay with us 8 to 10 months. We charge $2,650. I charge $2,400 for years. People have to pay a lot more to see me because I'm trying to not hog all the patients. I'm trying to build up 4 other therapists and bring them out into the world. I'm trying to build the rest of you up. So I price myself outrageously, and people still pay it, and that's cool too. But I try not to. So, right. And we're actually that's going to be one of the tips that we talk about today. So before we get too far ahead, but yeah, totally reasonable question. I love it. Right. So then again, I want you to imagine this, right? Like, can you see yourself? Can you see yourself being the person who makes these numbers that like we throw out onto the interwebs, right? Like, can you see yourself truly being the person who makes 10,000, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000? I cap out probably around, when I'm not being a workaholic, which is never, it's going to be any stop, but if it's just me seeing patients, I probably cap out around 33,000 a month. That's me seeing all the patients. That's me not giving to anybody else. That's about where I burnt out and brought on associates. So, right. So that's kind of my burnout, right about 30 to 33. That's too many people on my plate every single month. And that's why I bring on associates. And that's kind of where I want to talk with you guys through this today, right? So can you see yourself being the person that makes 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, whatever it is that you want to make for yourself or your family? Can you actually see yourself as that person? And if you can't see yourself as your person, I'm going to tell you right now, that's the first problem that you have. If you don't think you deserve to make it, if you don't think you deserve to have it, if you don't think it's possible for you, that is going to be a #1 journal prompt that I would like you to, again, I should have added an extra page because I keep making things up. This is what it's like working with me, you guys. I constantly just make things up. That's what it's going to be like, right? You have to believe that you deserve it, period. And then the end, right? And that's the workshop, everybody. Okay, have a great night, right? Like, no, so just kidding. But that is, to be honest, that sounds so woo-woo. That sounds a little like, but like, if you don't ever think you deserve it, then you're never going to make it because you're going to self-sabotage yourself. You're not going to go into that office. You're not going to ask that patient for the money. You're just going to maybe hide behind constantly making your website of referrals or whatever it is, right? Like, you know, and Jennifer, this is not at you, but I'm saying this as a mom, like, ooh, my baby's fussy today. I don't want to leave her with grandma. Right? Like, I've done that. Right? Like, oh, I just don't know if anybody else can like hold my baby today. Like, ma'am, give your baby to grandma, right? Like, right? Or, dad in your case, right? Like, again, right? Or, oh, well, my kids have this, that, and the other. And even though I have a 2-hour window here, like, I just can't possibly, right? Whatever it is that's like self-sabotaging you is kind of where you're at. You know what I mean? Like, so if you don't even believe that it's possible, if you don't even believe that you could possibly do it, if you don't even think those things, hi Beth, right? Then none of this is going to work for you because you don't actually believe you can do it. So that might possibly be the first hurdle in which you have to hurdle over, right? So, Beth, we were just talking about what are your biggest frustrations in your business, or kind of where you feel like you're at, like stuck at your income level. Doing a little dreaming of what you really want your life to be like. And now I'm actually going to share my screen to the workbook because we haven't gotten to it yet. You're welcome. Because that is literally what's so. All right. And I actually, my drawing on Zoom is, to be desired. So actually what I've been doing instead is just leaving up Canva and then typing on there. So this is where we're going to get more specific and we're going to get more clear. Okay. So what I want to know from you guys is, and you can either share this, you can write this down, like what kind of where you can send it to me privately if you want to, you can share it with the group, again, a small group, where are you at right now? Like where are you at business wise? Where are we at on these things? Because I also want to get a better idea of how we can get more clear and how we can get more focused, right? And I actually kind of have an idea to begin with, just to get you guys there really quickly, is actually going to be along the lines of getting really clear. And what do I mean by getting really clear, right? So you guys all in some way kind of have shared, like you feel like when you talk, it's confusing about what you do, right? Like you feel like you confuse people. Sometimes you maybe even confuse yourself. Been there, done it, working through it in a different way right now with some of my offers, right? So there's this kind of confusion factor that can come into play. And the first step I would take is getting really, really clear. Clear on what you do, clear on who you serve, and clear on why people need you. Okay. So I left this kind of white space up here so you guys can kind of write like random notes and then like some steps you can take, right? Right. So it is getting clear before you get out there and before like you're talking to people, before you're, even finding your people, is making sure you're really, really clear. And I think that is something that you guys all individually shared here in the beginning, right? Like you don't feel like you're clear enough. You feel like it's confusing. You feel like you have to do a lot of education, right? One of my big things that I always say is that you don't need 100 referral sources, right? You need 3 to 5 who are really good, who are consistent. And so you just need to be able to find who those people are for you, right? And it's a lot easier now than it was in 2016, let me tell you what. We weren't even talking about posterior tongue ties in 2016, in case anybody was wondering. And so that is, that's where we're at, right? And so, right, and here's the thing too, everybody has different goals, right? So, Jennifer, you were sharing, you started Mile for Kids, probably about 5 patients because, you're about to start a baby. You don't have to burn yourself out and take on 15 to 20 patients a month, right? Like you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to be somebody who wants to, have 4 associates and make $50,000+ a month. Like, and what I want to do with my money is I want to buy my parents home in cash, and I want them to have a place where they can retire. And I want to help my mom support my dad because my dad had a traumatic brain injury 6 years ago in 2017, right? And I want my mom not to be so worried every month. And I want my dad to have the support that he needs. And all of those things take money, right? And I want to buy a house for myself and Isabel. I want to make sure we live somewhere safe, right? All of these things take a lot of money. So I want to make a lot of money because I have a lot of things I want to do with it, right? So that would actually be a tip I have as well, is don't compare what you think you should be making to what somebody else, right? Like not everybody's story is the same, not everybody's needs are the same, right? And so the business plans, the business ideas, what you want and how you want to get there has to be tailored to you, right? Otherwise you're forcing it, otherwise it's not working for you, otherwise you can't figure out like why she does it this way, but why doesn't it work for me? Because we don't want the same things. Right? Like, and that has to be why you have to get really, really clear. And that's how you can pretty easily get to kind of this 5K mark, right? Um, and then the other piece is too, right, is going to be, we already talked about this, but we're going to make sure I want this to be really clear. Price yourself appropriately. Okay. Price your services appropriately. Do not undervalue what you bring to the table. You're offering things that change people's lives, right? And one of the biggest things actually we're working through with our current boot campers that didn't come up a ton the first boot camp, but it's come up a ton the second boot camp, is do not assume what patients can and can't afford. You have no idea. Truly, you have no idea, right? Like, technically you could look at me on a paper, oh, she's a single mom, oh, she lives in Portland, oh, who knows? Like she's an entrepreneur, like things could be crazy. She could make, I don't know if she's going to be able to afford my services, right? I mean, obviously if you see me on social media and I do share these things with you guys, like you guys know that I could afford your services, right? But I also just had to pay $20,000 to move move, get a lawyer, restraining order, emergency temporary custody of my daughter, right? Like my stories this year is crazy, right? And if I didn't have that much money to do all these things, who knows where we'd be, right? So I had a little stack that I was able to build up while he was in jail. I was able to do all those things, sell our cars, get new ones. He doesn't know where we live, doesn't know where we drive, put us in a safe space, right? So my need for $20,000 is different than your need for $20,000, right? And that's okay. It's not oh, well, we need this. Oh, we have to have this, right? I might not have been able to pay for the things that I want to pay for this month during that time because my money had to go towards something else. You know what I mean? So really making sure that you're not comparing the shoulds, right? Don't bring the shoulds into this. They don't belong here. That's tip number 1B. I don't even have this written down, right? Like don't bring the shoulds into this. Okay. Right. Telling people what you do, making sure it's really clear, right? Pricing your services accordingly, like dear God, I'm dying on that hill, right? And then here's what's hard for a lot of people is don't be afraid to sell yourself, right? I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation of, well, you have no problem selling when you wear your hygiene hat, selling an SRP, selling a crown, selling a this, selling a that. Well, yeah, that's because I was selling it for the doctor's office. Okay, well, sell for your practice and you're an employee of your practice. I'm selling for Northwest Myofunctional Therapy. I'm not selling for Megan, right? Like, that's fine. So separate yourself, right? I'm selling for the business. I'm not selling for me, right? Whatever it is that gets you over that hump, that idea. Well, I can't possibly ask for money for myself. Okay, we're asking for money for your business, and then you pay yourself, and it all works out, right? Selling is a byproduct of service. You are offering a service, and so therefore you have something to sell. That is the name of the game, right? And it doesn't matter if you're new. Doesn't matter if you've seen a million patients. Doesn't matter if you've never seen a patient. When you undervalue your pricing, you attract the wrong people. You attract the headaches. You know, if you charge $5,000 a patient and you want to make $10,000 a month, you only need 2 people, right? If you charge $1,000 for a patient, right? I'm just throwing out random numbers. I'm throwing out numbers that give me easy math, okay? If you charge $1,000, then you need 10 of those people, right? And so when you have appropriate pricing, you also don't have to work so hard to get people in, right? Is this all making sense? Is this helpful so far, you guys? Like, let me know in the chat, thumbs up, you know, holler, right? Once you're educated, once you've taken that intro course, you guys already know how I feel about that, right? Start making yourself an expert. Position yourself as an expert. Start a podcast. If you guys don't listen to the Munch Bunch, do it, right? Like, or right, start a study club, go live on Instagram. You know, okay. What's the best way to sell yourself and where to find these people is another question. Great. We can definitely cover that. Okay. Right? Like, go to conferences. There is a little bit of door knocking to be done, right? Like, you know, find the orthodontist in your area. You don't have to find the expertness of airway, right? Like, find somebody that connects with you. Find the holistic people in your world, right? What we offer is considered alternative, a bit holistic, right? So find your chiropractors, find your osteopaths, find your, you know, find your PTs even, right? Who don't necessarily work on this. I don't work with a single, this kills people, but I'm going to throw this out here. I don't work with a single airway doctor, not a single one. And people cannot possibly get over that. And I'm telling you what, I don't work with a single one. I've got 2 release providers. 2 are naturopaths who worked with Dr. Richard Baxter, and then 1 is a dentist who did some Breathe Institute training, so she was functional frenuloplasties. But they don't even, yeah, one of them saying they've been handing out my stuff and referring to me, but I haven't really. I'm like, we got to close that referral loop, right? But I don't, right? Because right now, who are the people who get it? Orthodontists get what tongue thrusts are. I know this kills people, but orthodontists get what tongue thrusts are, right? And then educate the patient. And then I send them for tongue tie releases. And then I get rid of their tongue thrust and send them back to the orthodontist and they say, thank you, right? Our job is not necessarily to change people's minds, right? The best way to sell yourself is, how can I help this person? How can I be a guide? I have that, like, getting people to say yes workshop. Katrina, did you end up watching that? Were you there live? I can't remember. Yeah, I thought you were. Right? Like, that's where I got all my best stuff of how to sell myself. That's where I got my best stuff, right? It's being the guide. It's being the person who's coming alongside of these people. It's, I'm here to make you look good. How do I make you look good? Right? How can I help your people? How can I help make you look good? How can I get you out of pain? Right? Position yourself as the guide, the expert guide. Like, and then your patient, your people, your referral sources, those are the people with the main character energy. Right? And the other piece is, you have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you do know your shit, right? And then I kind of Jennifer, I kind of answered that, right? Where to find these people, you know, for you in your pediatric dental office, right? There's pedodontists, there's orthodontists, there's like 20 different. I've got a list. We do this in boot camp because the first week is actually talking about referrals. And I give them a list of 20 different like ways to go find people. And oh, I wish I had her thing up. I might be able to go find it. But one of our girls, Stephanie, she was like, you know, when I followed your list and actually looked at these things, there's like 68 people in my area who I could talk to about this. Right. And there are very few are considered airway, right? And that's okay if people thought you were crazy to be charging $100 a session, let them know I charge like, what's the math? Tell them, no, you want to know what real crazy is. What is the math? What is, what's my math? Tell them 375 is really crazy, right? Like, tell them, no, you want to hear crazy? Have you met Megan? Like, she charges 375 a session technically, right? It's not crazy. I mean, physical therapy, I mean, I know everybody lives different places, but like physical therapy costs at least $200 a session in the Portland area. And isn't myofunctional therapy like a specialty of that? Right? Like, I don't know. I would pay any amount of money to make sure I was swallowing correctly, not having a headache, and like not clenching and grinding my teeth, right? Like breaking teeth to get new crowns. I mean, I think myofunctional therapy is cheaper than getting implants after you break teeth, right? Like, just throwing that out there, right? And so again, if you position yourself in that way of like, you know, I think myofunctional therapy is cheaper than getting ortho 3, 4, 5 times. 5 times is the number in my practice. A German guy who had a giant tongue thrust. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. Nobody ever told him. He had braces 4 times before he saw me, from ages 9 to 26. Right? Like, much would have been much cheaper if he did myofunctional therapy, right? So it's how we position it. Positioning, like, again, kind of like what we did with you guys in the beginning. Well, what's the risk of not doing this? What does life look like for you in 6 months? What does life look like for you in a year? What does it look like 3 years from now? More pain, more expensive healthcare bills, having to do ortho again. We never actually get into the root cause of what brought you here in the first place, right? Like, all of those things, we position it that way. That's where we can really kind of come in and be able to show those things, right? So okay, pricing your services appropriately, making yourself an expert, start a YouTube channel, go live on Instagram, start a podcast, be a guest on a podcast, right? Being a guest on a podcast really puts you in a spot. Create a study club, get into that networking group, be a leader, right? And then I want to say this with a little bit of caution. So, because I don't want you guys to get caught in the education spiral, right? So, like, be thoughtful, but like, go to conferences, go to meetups, you know, go to networking things, you know, but don't get stuck just only going to conferences and never seeing patients. Oh, there's a cute baby. Hi. Oh, I love cute babies. I love not cute ones.
He's
Love
on
it.
California time. We just got back from California yesterday, so
Oh, me too. I'm on
and
California.
we're on the East Coast, so
No, he's awake. All right, I'm on California time too, all the time. Right. So, you know, going to places, getting yourself out there, don't hide in your homes. Right? Like, you can't hide. That is really like a bonus tip, is like that I don't even have written down. Like, don't hide. Like, what are you hiding from? Journal it. Journal it. Journal it. What are you hiding from? What are you afraid of? What's the worst thing that can possibly happen to you? Right? This idea of detaching from the outcome is huge, right? Detaching from, okay, so this orthodontist never calls you back. Okay, on to the next, right? What did I do wrong? What about this? What about that? Like, again, we have no idea what people are doing. Oh, I meant to bring this up to them and I forgot. Or, oh, like their kid had an emergency and they had to go, right? We can't make assumptions. We can't make assumptions that people can't pay for things, and we can't make assumptions that, like, people hate us because they met us one time. Like, have you ever actually met anybody who just like hates you for meeting you one time? No, me neither. Right? And so why would anybody feel that way about you? Right? Like, that would be kind of the thing I would say about getting out there, is like, don't assume people are just going to hate you. That's like such a weird way of doing it, right? So making sure, following up, so getting out there and then following up on your referrals. Don't just go drop things off one time, right? Don't just go drop off. Like, follow up every week, follow up every 2 weeks, bring by treats, do it. What do we call it? A treat and teach, right? You can't buy lunch for the whole office. That's okay. Do a teach and treat. Is that what we called it? You bring treats, you teach, and like make the doctor buy the lunch for everybody, right? Um, didn't like making friends, which maybe that's part of the problem. Now that I'm thinking about it, is it kind of sometimes feels hard to make friends as an adult, isn't it? Like, kind of feels weird to make new friends. But that's kind of like what you want to do when you go into places, is you're making friends with people. You're making friends and they're sending their friends to you, right? If you want to go for fast cash, reach out to the patients you already have. So those of you who already have patients on your books, reach out, say, hey, I'm accepting 5 new patients in October. Do you have anybody that would fit the bill? Do you have any friends? Do you have any of your people, you know, any of your kids' friends also in braces? Bring them in, right? That is a really easy way because these patients already like you, they already know you, they already trust you. And reaching out and saying, hey, who else in your circle might need my services, right? Especially these mom groups, right? So those are going to be kind of that 5 to 10. Yeah, we might have even gotten into 10 to 15 a little bit, right? That's okay. This is fluid. It's fluid. It's a fluid situation, right? So pricing your programs appropriately, that can get you to 10 real quick, right? But also not being afraid to ask for referrals, not hiding, right? And then, you know, the other things is figure out where you feel like you're weak, right? What's your weakness? Is it closing the sale? What's your weakness? Actually getting out there, right? What is your actual weakness? Where do you feel like, and do not ever tell me it's your education, because you guys have all taken enough courses. That's not it, right? And look at potentially investing in something to help you get there, right? It's not going to be another intro myo course. It is just not. I promise you, it is not. It's all the same. Okay. But what is it, right? Maybe you're afraid to speak to people. So take an improv class, take a public speaking class, right? Maybe there's something that you're actually afraid to do, right? Look at maybe, right? Like look at something that you're afraid of. You know, if you don't know how to do something, sign up for a workshop, right? Like sign up for something that actually is something that you really don't know how to do, right? I think improv classes are so good. They help you think on your feet. They help you come up with good new ideas. You know, there's some sales objections master classes out there. That's what I'm looking at maybe hosting next in November. You know, I cover in business boot camp, I cover how to get referrals, I cover how to close sales on the call, I cover how to handle objections. We go over mindset, we go over money, we go over how to scale, we go over all this stuff in business boot camp too. You know, and that would be another tip I would put in here is what are the shortcuts? Figure out shortcuts that you can take, right? Like maybe you take a Udemy marketing course, right? Maybe you hire someone, take a shortcut to do your website, right? Or you watch some YouTube videos on how to build a brand story and you do it yourself, but you just make it really easy, right? You know, where are ways that you can actually make your processes easier? So I would say of my group right now that's in this 10 to 15 range, the biggest thing I have been challenging them on is how can they make their processes easier? How do you make it easier for yourself so you can spend less time in the admin space and more time in the making money space? So that was their big challenge this week, is getting more specific and more clear. And I've got a challenge for you guys at the end too. You know, and that's kind of where the next thing I would say is this comes back to a clarity thing, right? And I think Stacy, this could be really helpful for you, and I think we could chat about it more separately. But this idea of not giving too many options, right? Well, you could work with me session by session. Well, we could do this program. Well, we could do this, and then we can add on this. Well, we could do these things, right? Like it gets confusing for people because then they're like, I don't know what I actually need, right? And you put the decision on them to pick what they need versus, hey, you need this. Here's how we're going to get you there. Here's the cost. And actually, Jennifer, yes, I do always collect full therapy amount after the initial evaluation. 100% every time. We've got like a 90% success rate with that, maybe 95. But yeah, I do it all the time. If they don't have their card with them, I tell them I'll wait. They go get their card and I process it on the call. I did it earlier. I did it right before this call actually with a guy. So closing the loop. We're not chasing people, right? Don't chase people. Do not chase people. Close the loop. All right. But yeah, make it clear to your client. This kind of comes from like the very early steps, but making it clear what it is you're offering. Add a value stack, right? So what a value stack is, and actually that might even come into the 15 plus, but I think we can sneak it in here to be honest with you. Value stack your services. Hey, you're going to get me for 8 to 10 months. You're going to get me via email. You're going to get me via phone. We're going to make sure we hold your hand every step of the way. I'm going to give you this extra thing I'm going to give you some extra TMJ exercises in my program. I'm going to give you extra breathing. I'm going to give you, right, sleep apnea and all these things separately. And again, it's how you word things, right? So all these things separately would be an additional 500 for this, additional 500 for that. But in our comprehensive therapy program, we create one price. Here it is. This is the package deal. Right. And that's how you can really be like, oh, wow, this is a huge value. Right. This is how we can bring it all together. Like if someone's, if I'm holding your hand for 8 to 10 months and you have almost unlimited access to me and all I'm asking in exchange is $2,500, I mean, that doesn't seem so bad. Right. So when we can show how the investment and we can value stack what it is, right? And I think Stacy, for you, like new moms, like the IBCLC stuff, like if I had an IBCLC who in the beginning would have had a package for me that was like 6 months support because I had milk issues and I had latch issues and I had a lip, tongue, cheek tied baby. I had milk production issues. I had retained placenta. Like it was hard. It was so hard. And I ended up having to bottle feed Isabel because I just couldn't. I also only got a 3-week maternity leave, but that's a different story. I would have loved that to have that much support for that long. I think that would have been huge for me. And I would have paid buku books for that, by the way, because nobody feels more like a zombie than a new mom. Am I right, Jennifer? Okay. Right. So then there's also, if you really want to like ramp things up, right? I think we said this already, staying consistent with your referral reach outs. If you're not getting referrals from one of your sources, call them, show up. Hey, how do we close this loop? Hey, I know we dropped stuff off. I think you keep sending, you said that you've been handing things out. People aren't following through. I'd love to know from you guys, how do you think we could close this loop? How do we make sure the patients can get from A to B? Right? And ask them. There's no harm in asking, right? And that's what we call nurturing your referral relationships and maintaining them and nurturing them and keeping the loop closed, right? I already said this in the beginning. Believe that you're capable and worth making the amount of money you want to make. Okay, so in case I haven't been clear about that one, clear out any blocks. Clear out any blocks. And then really to get to that 15K plus, if you really want a shortcut, like where I went when I was here, and I would kind of come up to 16, 18, maybe 20, and I kept not quite, I wasn't figuring out how to consistently get there. Hire a business coach. Like hiring a business coach cut everything down so significantly. It took me from like a 16K January to a 33K March, right? Like that was worth it to me, hands down, right? Like, and then from there, I haven't, I've been in the 30s and 40s ever since, right? So, right, you want to get somewhere quickly, work with someone who knows all the shortcuts already, right? Investing your money into someone who wants you to win as much as you do will bring your money back to you in tenfold. I can't tell you how many I mean, I can. How many boot campers, when they said yes and they paid that, you know, $100,000 to join, within the first 2 weeks, it's already paid for itself. Double, triple. I can't tell you how many of my individual coaching clients who put the money down to do individual coaching hit their we had every single person hit 10K within 2 months, a month within 2 months. And we've got 2 people who've hit 20 consistently for at least 2 months and 3 months. And then we have one who hit 32,800 and like $10. What is it? Where did she end up? She just texted me. $31,840.28 in her second month. Right. She's occupational therapist and IBCLC, Stacy, just so you know. So it's possible. Possible. Right? So these are real people. I post their things on Facebook all the time because I want you guys to know they're real, right? You know, and some of them are your friends, right? Some of them are your friends. They're your people. And that is kind of wild. Yeah, it is amazing. She's amazing. You guys know Kelsey Baker? She's amazing. She's the best. I love her so much. So, you know, as we go into this kind of 15K plus, also apparently we're going over an hour. So everybody, I hope you're okay with that. And if you're not, you know, you can catch the recording. Once we get kind of to this 15K plus, right? This is kind of where we're looking at. This is where we have to dive deeper, right? We have to get a little more serious. Maybe you take a risk or an investment to go to a mastermind session, to go to like a business retreat, right? Like, you know, I made a big investment to go to Toronto to work with my coach in person. And I didn't have the money technically when I said yes. And you know, as soon as I said yes, like I made the money work and it came to me, and I went to Toronto and I spent 3 days there really working in depth with him. And that was my first $49,000 month. And I don't think that was a coincidence, right? So we see it all the time when we make an investment in possibly even something we maybe don't totally have yet. But when we make a decision, everything follows. So when we're on the fence, when we can't decide, when we're wishy-washy, when we're not clear, this action of decision opens everything else up, because it's like we take this pressure of ourselves because we made decisions, right? Right. So getting into this is kind of where we get into some of the woo-woo stuff, right? Diversifying, some journaling, you know, bringing other people in, making sure that like maybe you do play with different types of offers. Maybe you play with like a year-long holistic all-in offer for, you know, your people, and then you have your regular therapy option for your people, right? This is where you can get kind of like fun and play and create ideas and get a little bit creative. This is where you can start having more of a marketing plan and strategy, and actually have down here, we're going to go over this in a minute, some ideas for you guys, from both like attracting the right people, converting them, expanding, maximizing. We're going to go over these things. These are ideas I have for all of you. So, but before we get there, what I want to know from you guys, and in these boxes, it can be overwhelming to be told so many things at once. It can be overwhelming. You want to try it all. You want to do it all. You're like, but which one? And what I want to challenge you guys with, this is your homework. So what I want to challenge you guys with, is pick 3. Pick 3 things from the things that we went over. Pick 3 things that you really want to get focused on. Is it getting clear? Is it getting 5 referrals in this month of October? Is it increasing your prices? What is it? What are the 3 things, and only 3 things? Do not do more than 3 things. You will shoot yourself in the foot. I'm telling you right now, this is experience talking to you. Okay. What are these 3 things? All right, and if anybody wants to share in the chat or wants to unmute and share, like I'd love to hear it. Um, so, and then I want to know of these 3 things that you put in there, where have you, like 1 to 10, scale of 1 to 10, where have you already been putting your energy in that? Right. So if you've been out there trying to get referrals, right? Or, you've been out there like trying to close treatment, right? Or like sell treatment or whatever it is, right? How much energy, scale of 1 to 10, have you really been putting into it? Right. And this is where you can always come back to, right? You can come back to it monthly, right? Or every 6 weeks. We do a 6-week cycle in our world, in my coaching world, with my group, with my girls. Right? Where can you really get focused? What are the 3 things? Where are you putting energy at now? Right? Is it a 5? I've been kind of like, I've contacted a couple doctors, but I haven't really followed up with them. Maybe that puts you at like 5. I've like seen 10 new patients this month, but I've only closed I've closed 7 of them. So maybe I'm a 7, right? I'm too afraid to walk out of my door and actually go meet people. I'm going to put myself at a 1, right? And this is a scale for you. This is not a scale of shame. There's never a scale of shame here. But it's a scale for you to really see realistically where you're at and then where you want to take your energy to, right? Where you really want to bring that energy, because you don't have to go from a 0 to a 10. Even if you went from a 2 to a 4, think about how much more you could accomplish. Think about how much more you could do. Think about how much more you could bring, right? So pick your 3 things, think about where you are now, and then set a goal of where you want to be. Okay. And that's kind of where we bring into this idea of like a road to scale, right? So the 5 to 10,000, 10,000 to 15,000, 15 plus. I actually put together a checklist for you guys. Okay. So wherever you're at, wherever you are on this list, these are things that you can start to look at. And these are things that you can, and I'll kind of explain them to you because I know some of them aren't like super explainable. You're like, what's a clarity cocktail? What's client attraction, right? Like there. You're like, am I just like hosting drinks for the people? Yes, please do. But right. So again, so this idea of like if we're in this 5 to 10 or even 0 to 5, right? If we want to, depending on where you're at, get clear on your niche. Who do you help? What do you do? Get clear, right? Get clear for yourself, get clear. Clarity cocktail is like the second level of that, right? Getting clear on telling people what you do, clearing for yourself, get clear to others, and then start attracting the right people, right? Getting those referrals, getting out there, getting the people to know what's up, right? And then also like, how do we convert them, right? So somebody messages you, right? Somebody emails you, somebody contacts you. How do we quickly get them to a discovery call or a curiosity call, right? A 15-minute phone call, get them into your world to bring them to some sort of conversion call. So a conversion call would be like your comprehensive consultation, right? Some sort of sales call to actually get them to pay you money, right? Getting really good at those 3 steps, right? Those 3 steps you're getting really good at, right? And then, right, getting out there for your referrals, hosting an event, getting clear on what your offer is, right? Getting clear on what it is you're actually bringing, what it is you're selling, what it is you do, what it is, right? And then we're going to, for those who want to kind of take it to the next level, this is the inner work part, right? Making sure you have a good morning ritual. Doesn't have to be long. I actually work with a 5-minute journal because I have a toddler. So like I'm not out here meditating for 25 minutes and like visualizing and all of these things, right? Like I've got my 5-minute journal. I set what's my best next thing for the day, my top 3 best next things for the day. And like, I'm out here moving the people, right? Sometimes it's getting out of your own head, right? So some of these things is really truly getting out of your own head and going and doing something else and getting creative and moving away. Morning pages is getting all the clutter and junk out of your head. Writing out your dreams, journaling, all those things. That's what morning pages are. It's like 3 pages, like, you just get it out, get the mental clutter out, get the ideas out. Like, you know, again, I do more of a 5-minute journal than a morning page because like this is not my phase of life in which I have a leisurely 15 minutes to do these things, right? Oh, Katrina, Myo covers such a wide range of dysfunction. How should you narrow it down? I mean, I would pick maybe like the top 4 symptoms that we see, or the top 4 contributors to issues, or right, like 3 to 5 things, right, that contribute to these bigger picture things, right? So in my world, I have an orthodontic tongue thrust brochure, I have a pediatric brochure, and I have an adult TMJ and sleep apnea. I've always been this way. Why should I change brochure? That's it. Like, and I barely even like use them, to be honest with you. I have like one orthodontist who really likes them, but right, because again, right, we get clear, right? What do adults say? I've always been this way. Why should I change? Right? You're like, cool, let's all live in pain, right? Like, you know, you always want to feel this way. What if you could feel better, right? So, you know, and again, you're not here to help 7.2 billion people. Or half, I guess they say have OMD. So whatever, 3.75, whatever the number is, billion people, right? Like I'm not planning on seeing that many people. No, thank you. Right. So you only need a handful of people to find who need you, right? So if you're in the 10 to 15 range, that's where you can start building up an email list, right? That's where you can maybe do like a group. You know, you can look into some sort of paid ads on marketing, Instagram, Facebook ads. I'm not sure how I feel about Facebook ads, to be honest with you, but people ask me about them, so I throw them on here. Converting people, right? Getting good at your sales objections. Too much money. Let me talk to my partner. Now's not the right time. Let me think about it. If you can get good at learning how to object those 4 things, you will close 90% of your sales. Okay. This idea of kind of like 55 by 50 sprints, these are like the idea of like taking a project and not getting stuck in the weeds. You spend 50 minutes on it and you move on, right? So you can do 150, you know, you can do them a day, you can do them a week, but not getting caught in the weeds of the admin thing, the admin work, right? Getting that off your plate, getting that off your table. Don't get stuck in reports. Don't get stuck in, I mean, reports seems to be the biggest one that like the people. All my reports are only 1 page long, just in case anybody was wondering. Right? So getting clear on your systems, getting clear on how you get from A to paid, right? Your steps, right? Don't get stuck in your steps, okay? Host a webinar, host a workshop. How many of you guys saw Kelly Bradshaw post about her workshop coming up? And then like, and registered on like OMT for the RDH. She's got 84 people registered for that, right? Yeah, I've got blank reports, yeah. Yeah, like in business boot camp, everybody gets everything. Every single thing I have, every single thing I own, I just give it. Because again, like I'm here to make life easier. Like if you're in my world, you get all my stuff. So webinars, workshop, like I'm doing tonight, right? We're hosting a workshop. Didn't have to be expensive, right? But just showing kind of people what you do, right? Kelly's one of my individual coaching clients, and she's gonna do one on TMD and sleep. So she's got an education one coming up. She posted in the OMT for the RDH, and there's like 84 people who registered for it, right? So we're helping her grow and expand to get her to her next levels. That's what Kelsey did in her world. She did a workshop, a webinar. And then, right, so we talked about this before, raising prices. I feel strong about it. And then, you know, monthly recurring revenue. Is there something that you can create, some sort of membership, something that you can do to bring in, you know, a monthly recurring revenue, like Beth's Healthy Kid Mouths, right? Like for 47 bucks a month, like Beth hops on to Zoom with a bunch of moms and like we go through healthy mouth things, right? I already talked about this, right? Industry events, going to events, making sure you show yourself, like conferences, conferences, retreats, what else? Local study clubs, right? Showing that you're there. Setting aside time every week to work on the business, not just in the business, right? Taking yourself to the next step, hiring out you need to, hiring a VA, hiring associates, right? Bring up your time. So again, you can do the things that make you money, right? Then leading edge experiences are like doing cool stuff, right? Improv class, acting class, like, I don't know, indoor skydiving, karaoke night where you're like singing karaoke in front of everybody. Like, again, doing the things that scare you. Doing things that scare you, right? And then, taking it up an even bigger level, right? Again, getting really good at your content on social media. Coming up with like affiliates or like agreements with people like referring to you. We've got, being guests on podcasts. We've got hosting your own event. We've got if you want to start speaking, right? And even again, like even these first two could really get you, honestly, I think to 20, 20 to 25, to be honest. Like, I think this probably could be a 25 plus, right? This idea of like getting really understanding and taking things to the next level is this really like big level, right? Start kind of like acting in a way or behaving, not acting, but like behaving in a way that you're upgrading your lifestyle, that you are taking your kids on vacation, that you are like maybe not looking for the deal of the deal, that you are taking in like a leap at going to like, a more expensive conference or a business retreat or right, like, or you're going to invest in some like next level coaching or whatever it is, right? Like that leap of faith in yourself is like where these bigger money like incomes come from. So I put out a calendar for you guys so you guys can kind of take a look at where you think. And I would get really good at all of these things in the first level before I moved to the second level. And then I'd get really good at everything in the second level before I moved to the third level, right? Like, again, find the things that you feel like speak to you and you could get really good at. And you don't have to get good at them all at once. Start with one. Start with one. Put it on your calendar, right? Okay, today I'm really going to work on my niche. Okay, today I'm going to work really like on how I get clear, right? And that might take me a few days. So I'm actually going to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm really going to journal and work hard on getting clear, right? Well, Fridays, you're not going to go to dental offices. You might, but like some of them aren't open, right? Like Fridays, I'm going to really make sure I'm going to make a list and get like my referrals ready to like go on Monday. And Saturday, I'm going to go do a date night with my like husband, or Sunday, I'm going to go take my kids and do something really, really cool, right? And then Monday, I'm going to hit the offices, right? Something like that, and get really good at these things. And then all of a sudden, you take pressure off yourself, right? You're taking the pressure off yourself. You have a plan, you stick to the plan. There's no guesswork. You know what the next steps are. You know what you want to do. And then you go do it. And that's what I have for you guys today. So, there's a couple different ways. There's a couple different things, right? What do you guys feel like stood out as something that you could go take action on within the next, what's today, Wednesday? Shoot, by Friday. We're in the middle of the week. We got time for action. Anybody want to share? Not everybody at once. You guys are overwhelming me. All right, Jennifer, you're worth charging for your services. I love it. I love it. All right, anybody else feel anything? You also can unmute yourselves and just share it. Starting with a calendar. Yes, starting with a calendar, getting it done. Action steps. And honestly, the calendar is huge for eliminating the overwhelm, right? Picking the thing. So we call it your best next thing. What is the best next thing you can do? Not the best next 10 things. If you're always thinking, what's the best next thing I can do to make money, to get this done, to get clear, to declutter, then the next step will always become clear. Yep, Katrina, needing to get clear, right? Getting clear on what your niche is, getting clear on what you do. Yes, Stacy, narrowing down that focus, 100%. Then it won't be so confusing, right? Yeah, Libby mentioned patients paying in full. Patients have always paid in full for me. Since 2016, I have never not had patients pay in full. So it saves a lot of admin time. What I actually learned from one of our girls, one of my coaching clients, Diane, who had a lot of anxiety around asking for money, is she found by going to a pay in full option versus a session by session option, it made her a lot less afraid because she only had to ask for money one time. She only had to ask for money once, not 12 times or more. Right. And so there wasn't this anxiety around every single appointment of like, are they going to show up? Are they going to pay? Is there going to be something that goes wrong? Is the other shoe going to drop? Is something going to happen? Like the stress and the pressure is already off. Right. So this idea of paying in full, which I know everybody feels different ways about it, but I've never not done a pay in full. I have financing options in my practice. I have different payment options if they don't want to finance. I don't let them go more than 3 months, but we finance maybe one patient a month and everybody else pays in full up front. And we say thank you and we, see you later, right? Like, see you next week, right? So being able to take pressure off yourself, I think is huge. You don't have to know every single thing. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need more education. Beth, can you back me up on that one? You don't need more education. You don't. Oh, you're muted. Like, but I know Beth's been doing this a long time too. Like, you don't.
Yeah, it's education forever, but you don't have to travel for everything. And you can do things like this that are short and sweet and pick up pearls here and there. So yeah, go to your intro course and keep picking up the pearls.
Yeah. 100%. So, how can you guys move forward from here? What are some action steps you guys can take? I think that all looks really, really good. You guys know there's lots. I mean, I don't know. How do you get a free consult done in such a short amount of time? Spend an hour with the patient is such a time waste. So we do a 15-minute discovery call, and I have an outline at which we do for that. And then they got to pay to play. So then they get 75 minutes with me for $149. My consult fees are low. I don't care. Like, my therapy fees are high. So like, that's neither here nor there to me, right? Like that one doesn't make me go sideways. So, but yeah, 15 minutes. We have, and my operations manager, Sani, she does all my free discovery, or she does all the discovery calls for me at this point, with patients, but we have a list. And honestly, we use that 4 steps to sales that I have. And if you guys haven't seen that, you can have that, but it's really, what's your main concern? What are your goals? What have you tried before? How soon do you really want to deal with this problem? Do you want to work with us? And you take them through those things, right? And we ask 3 to 4 questions per section. And the sell for that is the comprehensive consultation, right? And they come to me and I 4-step them through the comprehensive consultation. What are your main concerns? Like, what is keeping them up at night? What have they tried before and it's failed, right? And then really getting to the bottom of their symptoms, getting to the bottom of their needs. Great. Here's your main problem. I pick one. Here's your main problem. Even if they have 8, I pick their main one. So I don't confuse them. Here's your main problem. Here's the main contributor. How soon do you want to take care of this? Yesterday? Great. Cost to work with us is $26.50. Give me run the card on file. Great. Okay, here's how it works. And then we go through it and we do, right? Like introduce them, get their kit sent out to them, right? And then we move on, right? So that's what is the simplest way to get this person from A to B. When we have them take 1,000,000 photos ahead of time, when we have them do 1,000,000 things ahead of time, when we confuse them ahead of time, that's when people fail. That's when they don't show up. That's when they don't say yes to therapy. That's when we education overload them. They can always learn as they go, right? as long as they know the meat and potatoes, they can learn more things as they go, as they understand things better. So don't education vomit on them. They don't need it. They need to know what their main problem is, and they need to know that you're the right person to fix it. And that they can trust you to take their money and do it. And then you teach them as you go. Right? That's that know, like, trust factor. Okay. All right. So I don't have anything to offer. I mean, I have a million things to offer all the time, right? Like, if you're not in our free Facebook group, join it. It's free, literally. Just be in there. And I post a bunch of stuff in there all the time. I actually have a tool that I'm going to post after we all chat tonight about how to organize your time, because time overwhelm has been a big issue for me. So I created something. I'm going to share it with you, and it's free. And then because you guys were on this call tonight, you know, you are all invited to schedule a free 30-minute one-on-one with me to dissect any of this stuff, to get in a little bit deeper. We have opened the doors for boot camp for January. Price is going up. So October, it stays the $997. But it is going to go up to $1497 because it was such a big need last time, and I have to be able to manage everybody. And then we also have the in-person mastermind business retreat that's coming up next month in the Dominican Republic. If you are somebody who has done one of my workshops before, if you've worked with me one-on-one, the discounted ticket is half off. So it was $1997 for the ticket to the event. But if you're here, if you have participated, cost for the event's $997. So if those things are, any of those things are interesting to you, schedule, let's talk, let's figure it out. And if you want to participate in the free Facebook group, we love to have you there too. So many different ways to work with us. So any questions for me? I know we ended up being like an hour and a half. A little sorry, not sorry. That's kind of how it always is for me. So I always say it's going to be an hour, and then here we are. But any questions about any of the tips? Any questions about any of the things coming up? Any more aha moments that anybody wants to share? You know, I'd love to have them. We can hang on for another few minutes. Isabel's staying the night at Grammy's house, so actually, like, I've got time. So if anybody wants to ask questions or chat, I'm here. If you guys are like, I'm good, we're all on the East Coast, like, we're going to bed, like, that's cool too. Yes, Jocelyn, do you have my phone number? Do we end up having phone numbers? I can't remember. Yeah, you guys can text me too. I don't, sometimes honestly it's easier to text me. So there's my phone number. You guys are welcome to have it. Yeah, let's or you can use the Calendly too. We can set up a time to talk too. But yeah, that's what I got for you all. Oh, I charge $149 for the evaluation. And no, I don't send any ROM scales. I don't do any of that stuff. They're tongue-tied or they're not tongue-tied. And then if we want measurements, we'll get them after they start therapy. And really, it's the doctor's job to take the measurements. So are they 4, 3, 2, 1? I mean, Dr. Zaghi eyeballs it. Why can't I? So there's my rant on that one. So but yeah, and then they can do an ROM scale, and you know, you can get silly. Where's my ROM skin? I just did this the other day. There it is. I just did this on a different workshop, but like basically all I do is like I have them pull up their selfie camera and I'm like, okay, and I show them how to do it. Oh, that's you guys, not me. Cool, pull up your camera. Okay, what's that number? 50? Okay, let me do this one. Cool. Okay, what's that number? 45. I already know what my numbers are. Because I had a tongue tie release and I have excellent range of motion now. Right. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, you're just what I thought. A grade 1, right? Like, you know, don't overthink it. Oh wait, go ahead, Christina.
Do you send that out ahead of time?
No, I send it only when they do their kit.
Okay.
Yeah. Only when they do their kit. So yeah, no, I gotta pay to play. So, yeah. Any other questions, you guys? You can unmute. Stacy, you still there? I think Beth
Yep,
popped off.
I'm still here.
Okay. You got any questions? You still driving?
No, I'm not. Taking notes, absorbing.
Do it. Do it, do it, do it. Okay.
As far as charging for the full program, do you generally say, hey, it's about 12 sessions? If they go over more than 12 sessions, do you charge them more, or is it included in like, hey, it's 12 to 15 sessions and depending on what you need?
So I got 12 to 15 sessions and I just did the full
Okay.
price. And in my 7 years of doing this, I've had less than 10 people ever have to go over.
Okay. As somebody that's kind of pulled back from Mayo after just starting